As long as I keep that in perspective, I let God be God and me be his son and have him take care of me. You can't keep up with it. When I reverse that, I think I know what's right, and I think I know what I'm going to do, and I reverse those things, and I'm taking care of me, it falls apart. Happens every time. I have to learn to let God be God and me be his son. When you do that, you can't keep up with it. It's impossible to keep up with it.
Well, hello, friends of Bill W. and other friends. You have landed on Sober Speak. My name is John M. I am an alcoholic, and we are glad you are all here, especially newcomers. Newcomers, that is, both to recovery as a whole and newcomers to this podcast. Sober Speak is a podcast about recovery centered around the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My job here on Sober Speak is simple. My job is to provide a platform to the amazing stories of recovery all around us. Consider Sober Speak, if you will, your meeting between meetings. Please remember, we do not speak for AA or any 12-step community. We represent only ourselves. We are here to share our experience, strength, and hope with those who wish to come along for the ride. Take what you want and leave the rest at the curb for the trash man to pick up. Greetings, my friends, from Studio AA, deep in the heart of Texas. That was the voice of our friend once again, Mr. Reno John, that you heard here at the beginning of this episode number 389 of Sober Speak, and you are going to hear so much more from Reno John in just a moment. But first things first, this here episode is made possible by Brad. And what, you may ask, did Brad do this week? Well, Brad visited our humble little website, www.soberspeak.com. He clicked on the little yellow donation tab and made a contribution. So thank you so much, Brad. This here episode is coming right out to you. As always, we're going to let all the other folks listen on in, but we appreciate your support. All right, so for those of you who are regular listeners, or maybe you just happened to listen last week, you will know that we did Reno John Step 2. And this week we're following up with Reno John Step 3. This here month, March, is going to be, we'll just call it a Reno John Palooza. A Reno John extravaganza. I'm just thinking up words as we go along here. Anyway, this is going to be more Reno John. This time, Reno John is talking about Step 3. And John discusses Step 3 of Alcoholics Anonymous, just in case those of you who may be new listeners out there. John discusses the 3 areas he absolutely knew God did not care about in his life. He talks about how 2 ding-a-lings don't make a bell. I like that one. He discusses what staying at the MGM Grand was like for him, that fancy hotel, but John saw it from a different perspective. He discusses his earnest prayer to God and the result of that prayer. And as you can tell from the opening audio clip, he talks about how it is best to let God be God, and much, much more. That is the tip of the iceberg with Mr. Reno John A. Enjoy John, and we'll have plenty listener feedback at the end of this episode. Enjoy.
I'll tell you about Step 3. I'm going to round this up. I'm going to go through this as quick as I can, because when I took Step 3, I took it on my knees with my sponsor, Don. We sat down, we reviewed the steps, 1 and 2, and we took Step 3. I got on my knees and said the 3rd step prayer, read it out of the big book with Don. And when I said that, I turned everything over to God. Turned my will and my life over to the care of God. And I turned everything over to God, except for just three little things. They weren't big things. They were just little things. Things that God didn't care about. Now, my mind told me God didn't care about these three little things. So if God didn't care about them, I'll have to take care of them, right? He only takes care of things he cares about. He doesn't care about, like money. God didn't care about money.
No.
He loves the rich and the poor, right? So I have to manage my money. He didn't care about that because he loves everybody. And the other one was employment. God doesn't care where you work as long as it's honest. So I'll handle my employment. I mean, he loves the bank president and he loves the ditch digger, right? He doesn't care what you do for work. So if he doesn't care, I'll have to manage my work. And the last one was relationships. God doesn't care who you date. And I threw that in there because I figured, he's not really interested in the same kind of date I'm interested in. So I'll manage that. So I'm living in Reno, Nevada, and I'm managing my employment by not working. I'm not working. I'm playing poker for a living. And I'm managing my money so I can play poker. And I've been sober about 4 months, and fell in love. And this was the real deal. Beautiful gal. Beautiful. Stunning. Picked her up in a bar. Well, the book says check your motives. And if you have reason to be there, you can go and you'll be okay. I had a reason to go there, and I succeeded. And she was not an alcoholic. Even though she was in a bar, she was not an alcoholic. She was a hypochondriac. They're all like alcoholics, but instead of going to the bar at night, she liked to go to the hospital. Weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. She liked to go to the hospital. Every night we're taking this guy to the hospital. Finally, I'm down to the hospital, and the nurse comes out, big, thick file on her, and she says, Val is very, very sick. And I said, well, it's about time. We've been down here every single night this week. About time you found it. She said, well, she went through her file, and this gal was 30 years old. She'd had 17 operations.
Wow.
17 operations. My mind said, this is great. Think about that. I'm an alcoholic. I have a real disease. She just thinks she's sick. I'll get real active in Alcoholics Anonymous. She can get real active in Hypochondriacs Anonymous, and we'll get well together. That's what we do in AA, right? We put all these sickos together, and we love each other, and we get well together. So this will be great. This will be great. So, and I didn't really even mind her 5 kids, because she only had custody of the 2 girls. They'd taken the men children away because she hated men, but I didn't make that association back then. And so we moved in on the 3rd date, and sick relationship. My sponsor, I kept talking to my sponsor. He kept trying to explain to me 2 dinglings don't make a bell. Oh, painful relationship. You ever notice it was sick? You ever notice you can't leave a sick deal? You can't leave a sick relationship. That's why it's sick, by the way. And my sponsor kept saying, leave. I said, I can't leave, Don. I love her. You don't know what love is. You're so old you forgot what love is. I love her. I'm not leaving her. I love her, Don. Not leaving her. I love her. Not going to leave her. Love her. And he said, you can't leave. Can't leave, Don. Don't even talk about her. You got a car? Yeah, I got a car. Why? Well, back your car up. Driveway. Back it in the driveway. Raise the trunk. Put your shit in. Go. I said, I can't, Don. I love her. No. So now I'm 11 months sober. I'm involved in a sick relationship. My sponsor, he quit talking to me about it. He said, I don't want to talk to you about it anymore. I'm not going to talk to you about it. And because you shouldn't be in it. So I'm 11 months sober. I'm managing my relationships in the sick relationship with her. I'm managing my money so I can play poker. I'm still not working. I'm managing my employment by not working. Managing my money so I can play poker. And I came back, and that week, man, I didn't win a hand. I just lost all my money in a week. Went broke. Flat, and I mean broke. Had no money. Went home that night. After the last night, she said, how'd you do? I said, we're broke. And that's when she kicked me out. See, I learned a lot by that. So she kicked me out, so I'm out. Slept in my car. Had no place to sleep. Slept in my car that night. I went down to see my sponsor the next morning at Intergroup. He was still working at Intergroup. And telling him about, man, Val's kicked me out. I got no place to live. He smoked a cigarette and said, thank God. I said, Don, what are you talking about? I got no money. I got nothing to. I slept in my car last night. Can't even eat. He said, I know, thank God. I said, what? He said, see, he said, here's the deal, John. He said, you're going to have to start to practice. I asked him, what am I going to do? He said, well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to practice seventh tradition in your own life. And I said, what do you mean the seventh tradition? What is the seventh tradition? I've only been here a year, don't know what the seventh tradition is. He said, well, we're going to be self-supporting through our own contributions, declining outside help. So what does that really mean? So you don't borrow any money. I don't want you borrowing $20 from another AA. You borrow $20 from another AA, get a new sponsor. Because that's not your source. It's going to take care of you. You get to find your source. It's going to take care of you the rest of your life. And I call that source God. So you're going to practice seventh tradition. Don't borrow any money. Next thing is, although you're a bum and it's not God's will that you look like a bum. This is key. These two key factors. Don't borrow any money. The second factor is, although you're a bum, it is not God's will that you look like a bum. You're going to look and act like what you are, which is one of God's kids. So I had to shave every day. I sleep in my car, get up in the morning, walk down to the Shell station, take a sponge bath at the Shell station, had 2 outfits rotated every other day, put on my little tie, had to wear a little tie, and shave, had to shave every day because I'm supposed to go out and look for work. I'm not going to look like a bum. So I had to go, I said, what am I going to do? What kind of work? He said, you remember the last real job you had? I said, yeah. What'd you do? I said, well, I sold insurance and I sold equities and stocks and bonds and real estate. Then you go to the insurance companies, you go to the banks and the brokerage houses, and you apply for a job. Hey, if you're new, don't do that. Don't do that. Because you got to be bonded to do any of that. And they got a lot of forms to fill out. And they ask the questions, a lot of questions, none of their business. Like they want to know address. You put your license plate down there, they're going to want to know MD 237. I'm not sure, where is that? Is that your apartment address? You know, and I couldn't find a job. And I got down to 135 pounds. I'm 170 now. I'm down to 135 pounds because I wasn't eating. I used to walk around the casino up and down rows and rows of slot machines looking for nickels, dimes, and quarters. And you can actually find money. This is when they really played with real money and they'd pay off in money. And people would scoop it up and run off to show their friends in the bucket of money they had. They'd actually leave a dime or a nickel or a dollar in the bottom of the slot machine tray. You can actually find about $2 a day doing that. You know, it'd take you 18 hours, but you can find money in the bottom of the slot machine tray. That saved me. And it just wasn't working, you know. And I couldn't find a job. And I went to my sponsor, I can't find a job. He said, then go apply to be anything. So I went to apply to be a cook's helper. You know, that's just a short form to fill out. They just want to know your name, you know. And guy looked at me, I'm sitting there, tie, clean shaven. He's, no, John, he said, I hire you, you'll be here, you know, till you find a better job, then you're gone. I have to replace you. So back then we were having the Laotian refugees. Like right now we have people from South America coming in. Back then there was Laotian refugees coming in. He said, I can hire him. He doesn't speak English. He'll be here forever. And I said, no, I'm actually thinking about a career in the kitchen. He said, no, I'm not hiring you. Couldn't find a job. And he gave me another great piece of advice. He explained to me that we can't help somebody do something we haven't done. It's a key point to remember. You can't help somebody do something you have not done. Mm-hmm. So he said, don't go down to the lunch bunch group with all those other guys down there who are unemployed and ask them how to get a job. Because they don't know. They'd go get one. You know? So I can only talk to 3 people. He said, we don't sponsor by group. We sponsor by individual. You can talk to me. You can talk to my sponsor, which is Bob Horrigan, or Bob's sponsor, which is Pete Tyree. Those are the only 3 guys I could talk to. And he said, that's it. You don't go around talking to the group. You don't want to talk to the group, get a new sponsor. And so used to sweep out a bar. Lady owned a bar on South Virginia, 751 bar. It's on South Virginia. Every Friday she'd let me sweep out her bar straight in her political closet. She'd feed me lunch and pay me $5. And that was the only meal I was going to get that for sure that week. Sometimes I'd find a little more than a couple bucks and I could buy something. My sponsor bought me 1 hamburger that whole time. That was it. Because I got to get you a hamburger, you're going to die. I was pretty skinny. And finally he said to me, he said, listen, I've never been. He was a retired Air Force pilot. He said, I never have been living under the bridge. You're under the bridge. He said, so you go to the men's stag meeting, it was Thursday, go to the men's stag meeting and ask them how to live under the bridge. And then he said, he gave me some names of some people that went to that meeting that had lived under the bridge. He said, they'll help you. They know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. So I went down there and I asked that question. Some guys came up after the meeting and they said, it's easy, man. You go down here to the blood plasma center, sell your blood. Back then we get $7 for our blood. Now it's a lot more now, but back then it was $7. And then you go to the Social Security office, apply for some emergency food stamps. You can sell those on the street. You can buy food with them, but we always sold them on the street. You can have $20 by tomorrow night. I was so excited I couldn't sleep. Went over there to sell my blood. They wouldn't take my blood. You have to have two forms of ID, and one of them had to have a picture.
Oh.
And it had a driver's license, but it didn't have a picture on it. It was a special driver's license. It said right on it, special driver's license. Only give it to special people. Allows you to drive during special hours, It didn't have a picture on it. So I wasn't worried. It's only $7. I'm going to go get my food stamps, Social Security office. They wouldn't give me food stamps. You had to have your Social Security card. I knew the number. They said, no, we need the card. Well, I lost my card years before that. Because I know the number, what I need the card for. We need the card. So how do we get a card? Fill this form out. We'll mail it to you. Sure you will. Mail it to my car? Sure you can do that. So it just wasn't working, Couldn't get anything. And it gets to be November. It's snowing. It's cold. My nose is running. And I don't know. I see other guys come in, and they get their job back. Some of them get their wives back. Their life gets back together. I come in, and a year and a half later, I'm living in my car. I got no money. I got no job. I got nowhere to go. I don't know what I'm doing. And this AA stuff is not working. It is not working in my life. And I'm down at Friday night. I'm down at the state mental hospital where I got my big book, and every meeting is gratitude meeting. I'm crying through the whole meeting, and they called me to share that night, and I was grateful for some things I hadn't ever thought about. I was grateful that I didn't grow up in an alcoholic home. I grew up in a very healthy home. I didn't hear some of the horror stories some of the people that grew up in an alcoholic home had to go through. I didn't have to go through any of that. I was grateful for that. I was grateful that when I got divorced, we had a custody battle for my kids. I was so grateful the judge gave custody of my kids to my ex-wife. Because what I'd done, I was fighting. At that time I had money, and I was fighting for the kids. What had I done if I'd have got the kids? I can't take care of me. How am I going to take care of them? I'm living in my car. I was so grateful I am to this day that the judge gave custody to my ex-wife. And after the meeting, some come over. Old Conklin was his name. Old money. One of the first families into the valley in Reno. Owned half the valley and a bunch of millions and millions of dollars. And I saw him come over to talk to me, and I thought, well, it's about time. He comes over and puts his arm around me and said, John, I love you. And I said, I love you too, Conklin. You're going to make me president of the fur company, I guess. And he said, boy, I hope you get in AA. You're not going to make it. I said, I'm in AA. What are you talking about? I've been here for over a year and a half. You know that. That's why I'm here. I know. I said, I just hope you'll take step 3 because you're not going to make it, man. I said, I've taken step 3. I took it with Don. You know Don. Go ask him. He said, John, I love you. I don't want to offend you. I love you. And I have no doubt you said the prayer. No question in my mind, you said the prayer with Don. Now I hope you learn to take that step. And let me tell you how I know you haven't taken that step. The 3rd step says we made a decision. We made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. The reason I know you haven't taken that step is because God takes better care of his kids than the way you're living. You can't argue with that. How can you argue with that? And I said, it cut through me like a knife through hot butter. I said, how do I do that? And he said, oh, you can't. I said, well, thanks for sharing, Conklin. Appreciate that. And he said, see, until you accept the fact that you're not this hot shot, you're homeless living in your car. And that's right where you're supposed to be. You can't surrender something you haven't accepted. You have to accept it first before you can surrender it. Once you accept the fact you're in your car, and you're going to stay in your car till God takes you out of the car. Till you accept that, you can't surrender it. And then you got to quit praying for stuff. You praying for stuff? And I said, like what? You praying for a job? I said, yeah. You don't need to pray for a job. You praying for something to eat? I said, yeah. You don't need to pray for something. You don't think God knows you need to eat? If he doesn't, you better get a new God. I said, what do I pray for? And he said, well, if you knew what God wanted you to do, God wants you to go do that. over there, whatever that is over there. And you had the power to go do that. Don't you think you'd be okay? I said, yeah. So then you pray only for a knowledge of God's will for you and the power to carry that out. Because if you know what that is, you're going to be okay. And I left there, and I was staying at the MGM Grand. Well, in the parking lot of the MGM Grand. Used to walk around the casino till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning because it was warm. It was snowing outside. I'd walk up and down rows and rows of slot machines looking for nickels, dimes, and quarters. And I'd go out, and I went to the car about 3:30 in the morning, and somebody loaned me a sleeping bag from AA. I slept in the front seat, and I'm done. I ain't going to make it. And I know it. And I'm crying my eyes out because I don't know what to do. I've done everything I know that they told me to do, and I don't know what to do. And I don't know what my prayer was. There was no burning bush. There were no bolts of lightnings. But I remember just promising God, God, I don't know what you want me to do. But if you'll tell me what you want me to do, I promise you I'll do it. But I don't know what you want me to do. I can't hear what you're saying. You're going to have to make it real clear to me where you want me to go and what you want me to do, because I don't know. And I just went to sleep. Cried myself to sleep. And I got up the next morning, went down to the Shell. Nothing had changed. Went to the Shell station, washed and shaved, went to talk to some people at 7-Eleven. I put my app in. That night, Saturday night, I went to St. Mary's Hospital, downtown Reno. Had a meeting at 8:30 at night. After the meeting, I'm downtown, so I'm walking around the Hilton downtown Reno. I'm not looking for a job. I'm trying to stay warm or find nickels, dimes, and quarters. And I'm getting ready to go outside to go to bed. It's about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Nothing had changed. I wasn't looking for a job. I'm looking for nickels, dimes, and quarters. I got a job. Where are you going to go get a job at 4 o'clock Sunday morning? You know? When you're not looking. Guy came up to me and said, you want to work? I said, yeah. I went to work at the Hilton. The best job I could have got paid me $4 an hour and 1 meal a day. And I don't care if I got a job paid me $10,000 a month. What I've eaten. Got to work a couple of weeks to get a paycheck. But I got $4 an hour and 1 meal in the employee cafeteria a day. So I got to start eating every day. And I started working that night, graveyard shift. And I was so excited. We hadn't have cell phones or anything, so I worked Sunday night. Got off work at 8 o'clock Monday morning, ran down to central office to see my sponsor. He didn't know I was working. And walked into the office, and he looked up and said, what are you doing? I had black pants on and a white shirt. I said, got a job. So we sat down, drank coffee, smoked cigarettes, and cried a little bit. I was telling him about how I got this job, and it was so exciting. And phone rang, and he picked up the phone, long pause. He said, yeah, I know him. Another long pause. He said, well, he's written right here. Handed me the phone. It was a guy named Humphreys, Doc Humphreys. Lives next door to my parents. And so I couldn't call my mom. My sponsor wouldn't let me call her. He said, you call your mom, you'll cry. She'll cry. They'll send you some money. That may kill you. So if you need to talk to mom, you tell me. I'll call her for you. Or you can tell your sponsor, you call my mommy. You're not going to do that. So I hadn't talked to her for months. And so he handed me the phone. It was a guy named Humphreys, Doc Humphreys. Lives next door to my parents in Utah. And I said, Doc, what are you doing calling me in Reno? He said, you need to call your mom. She's worried sick about you. You haven't talked to her for months. You need to call her today. I said, okay. And I said, how do you know that? He said, well, they were over here telling me about it. And he said, I was going to be in Reno. And they said, well, he's supposed to be in Reno. Last we talked to him. And he said, well, I'll be there. I'll call the cops, see if they got him. No, they don't have him. We called him yesterday. They don't have him. So, but call AA. Maybe AA knows where he is. So I got in town today, called AA. Hell, there you are. I said, yeah. Sober. He said, good. He said, you working? I said, sure. Got a job at the Hilton. We don't tell him about it. He said, where are you living? I said, well, I'm moving. I'm not going to tell him I'm homeless. He said, have you signed the lease? I said, no. He said, well, don't. Although he's a doctor, he no longer practices medicine. He was a contractor. He built homes. He's a builder. So I'm building a subdivision instead. And instead is 8 miles north of Reno. So that's what I'm doing here in Reno. I'm going out to look at the development. He said, I got a guy that's stealing from me out there, John. Thousands of dollars. I think I know who it is. You know, these people, they move in and then they'll come around, they'll steal dishwashers and paint and lumber out of construction sites and stuff. He said, I think I know who it is, but I can't prove it. There's nobody out there. I got a house next door to his, I haven't turned the utility. If I turn the utilities on in that house, I haven't sold it yet. If I turn the utilities on in that house, will you come out and keep an eye on him at night and see if there's any strange activity going on? Let me know about it. And I said, well, I'll come out and look at it. 48 hours. God had done for me what I couldn't do for myself. And that Conklin promised me if I could just do those two things, God would start working in my life so fast I couldn't keep up with it. It'll be impossible to keep up with it. And that promise has come true. You can't keep up with it. By the way, food and shelter is it. You got that, you're okay. And in 48 hours, God had taken care of me. I got a job and I got a place to live. And I moved a little while after I got a Christmas card from my sister, lives in Dallas. And I called her. She said, what are you doing? And I hear you work at the Hilton. I said, yeah. She said, how much are they paying you? I said, $4 an hour and one meal a day. She laughed. She said, you can get a job. This was in '83. She said, you can get a job in Dallas doing anything for more than $4 an hour. Because Dallas was rocking in '83. And I said, well, I'm doing fine right now. And she said, no. She said, I'm going to send it. She sent me the classified ads section. I was big on our whole newspaper. Dallas was, it was booming. I looked at all these jobs and all the money. And I went to my sponsor and I said, she sent me this ad, said I could come out and stay with her until I got my feet under me. I said, but I don't want to take a sober geographic. I don't know whether I should go or not. I'm doing fine here. I got a place to live and I got a job. And he said, let me ask you a question. He said, do you want to go? I said, no, I don't want to. Anything out there you want to go to? No, I don't want to go. Do you need to go? Do you need to get out of Reno? You got a warrant for your arrest I don't know about? No, I don't need to leave town. And he said, do you have to go? You got some girl out there you have a crush on? No, I don't have to go. He says, well, if you don't want to go and if you don't need to go and if you don't have to go, hell, then you can go. So I moved to Dallas. I hitchhiked. I hitchhiked from Reno in February, the end of January. I hitchhiked from Reno, Nevada to Salt Lake City because you could fly the car I was living in, I threw a rod through the engine just before I left. So I sold the car for $500 scrap. And I hitchhiked from Reno to Salt Lake, and I flew for $99 on Braniff one way, landed in Dallas on February 1 of 1983, and been in Dallas ever since. And got a job the first week I'm in town, got a sponsor the first week I'm in town, and my whole life fell together real quick in Dallas. Mm-hmm. Got back in the insurance business in Dallas. Everything happened just the way Don told me, or Conklin told me it happened. You can't keep up with it. As long as I keep that in perspective, I let God be God and me be his son and have him take care of me. You can't keep up with it. When I reverse that, I think I know what's right. I think I know what I'm going to do. Yeah. And I reverse those things and I'm taking care of me, it falls apart. Happens every time. I have to learn to let God be God and me be his son. When you do that, you can't keep up with it. It's impossible to keep up with it.
One other thing I want to mention, because you had... We had talked about this, or you have talked about the number of times you've been married, and Don M had been married, and all that kind of stuff we were talking about. But you've been married now for
20 years. Pat's and I have been together 31 years. 31
years, right? So, so you were a serial marriage guy there for a while.
I've been married 3 times, and she's the third wife, and I'm her third husband. So 3 strikes and we hit a home run on the 3rd strike, both of us, and she was, and that just fell together. I mean, that was a miracle that we found each other, because I knew I was going to marry her. I dated her for 7 years before I asked her to marry me, and because I figured, well, she started to get a look in her eye about, what are we doing here? It's been 7 years. And I thought, well, I got 7 years without a ring, so I gave her a ring thing. I'll get 7 more with the ring. As soon as you give them a ring, man, they start setting dates and putting on flowers and colors and all that stuff. We got married in 6 months. But it's the best thing in the world ever happened to me. We've been together, and we've got, I've got 2 kids. She has 1. We got 5 grandkids. And we got a wonderful deal going right now. We're still married and we're doing great.
Don M. must have had a few marriages himself then.
He never did get remarried. I think he got divorced. I think he only been married once, but he never remarried. And it was interesting because I was speaking. In fact, Don's the only guy that has attended 2 of my weddings. When I married my first wife in Dallas, Lisa, I was sober about 4 years, and I'd been dating Lisa, and we got married. And we flew out to Reno over Thanksgiving, and we got married Thanksgiving weekend. And I picked that weekend. We get married Thanksgiving Day, and I called Don and said, we're going to come out and get married. And he got the judge who was in AA to marry us on Thanksgiving Day. And he attended, was my best man there. And we got married Thanksgiving Day because I figured I'll never forget the date because it was Thanksgiving Day. And I didn't realize that Thanksgiving changes day every year. You know, and so I missed the first anniversary. But we were married. We were married about 6 years. And then got divorced. And then when I married, I was speaking at a conference in Irving, and I'd been sober, I guess about 10 years, 12 years. And I got through speaking at the conference, and people come up, and a big long line of people shaking hands with them. I looked up, and there's Don. I said, my God, Don, what are you doing in Irving, Texas? Yeah. He said, I live here now. I've been looking for you. And they told me about this, and I heard about this conference. I've been here around about 5 months, and I heard about this conference. He had gone back to work for the telephone company and moved to San Antonio. And then after he got through San Antonio, he moved up to Irving because his son was in Irving and was living in Irving, Texas, and had been there 5 months before we met again. And so he was, one more time, he was my best man at my wedding when I married Patsy.
That's correct.
And so that's how that all happened. And he died. He died living in Irving. And he got cancer and withered away to nothing. He was still smoking. He smoked like a fiend, you know. That was Don.
Yeah.
You know. And he was going to the Gift over at in Irving. Yeah. That's the name of the group he was going to. So
the Gift, yeah.
We reconnected on that. I had to quit going out to Reno after a while because I used to go there every 6 weeks. I'd fly out to Reno and spend time with Don. So I was just homesick for that, you know. And then I quit going out there, and I got married. Lisa and I got married, and we quit going out there. And so that's how all that worked out.
Well, John, Reno John, John A., whatever we're going to call you, this has been... I just love spending time. We're going to have to get back together again. I know you have like tons of content, and we can get back, talk about more of the steps, but we'll call it today and get you back on the calendar. I appreciate you coming out here. You know, as a lot of people know, I record these things remotely a lot of times. And I even gave you the choice, right? Because you live.
I like to come out and hang out with
you. Right. Yeah, it always turns out a little bit better, you know, to be sitting across the table.
It does. I like it better. It did.
All right, so let me read page 164 from the big book here to wrap us up. It says, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May you surely meet some of us, like me and John A., Reno John, as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Once again, my friend, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you, man.
Thank you again, Mr. Reno John. We are definitely going to have Mr. Reno John back for some more recording sometime here in the near future. Working out his schedule and my schedule can be a little bit of a challenge, but I'm looking forward to getting him back at some time. Anyway, now on to a little bit of listener feedback. Scott writes in and he says, good morning, John. I am from the Houston, Texas area, and I have been sober for 18 months. And your podcast was suggested to me by another brother in the program, Brian F. Well, Brian F., if you're listening out there, thank you for the recommendation. And then he says, Scott says, I have been specifically listening to the Gary K episodes. And he says, does Gary K have a speaker schedule or plan to be in South Texas area anytime soon to your knowledge? Thank you for your service. Best regards, Scott E. Well, Scott E., as you know, I got you in touch with Mr. Gary K himself to let you two talk about his schedule, and it looked like he had just got back from the Houston area, but I know Gary, he goes all over the place. My guess is he will be back very, very soon. And thank you for writing in. Thanks for both of you and Brian being listeners. Really appreciate it. Betsy writes in, and Betsy says, hey, John M., I am a recovering alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 3rd of 2023. I currently live in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which is near Harrisburg. Yeah, I've been up there many times, actually. She says, I moved here from Springfield, Missouri. I've been there several times myself as well. A year ago. I had previously lived in Springfield since 1989. I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area. My father was transferred to Richardson, Texas during my junior year of high school. I graduated from Berkner High School in 1985. Well, Betsy, I don't know if you know this, but I am a stone's throw away from Richardson and Berkner High School. I knew a lot of people from Berkner, and that's where I'm actually recording from right now. I'm down here in Texas. Anyway, she says, I went to Louisiana Tech University, well, you've been all over the place, to participate in their band program, and I received band camp. You ever heard about that? Band camp. We learned that at band camp. But anyway, and she says that I received my degree in finance in 1989. My parents retired in Southwest Missouri shortly before my college graduation. I liked the area, and that's how you got there. So I moved there in 1989. That's how you got to Springfield. Anyway, she said, during my teenage years, I had initially made a decision not to drink. I'm sorry, I lost my place. Oh, I'm so sorry. Not to drink. However, I tried a beer when I was 18. I didn't like it at first, but later I discovered that alcohol helped me cope with stress and feel more at ease socially. So I thought, she says. Some of my friends expressed concerns, but I ignored them. My drinking really started escalating about 15 years ago. I perfected the art of being a closet alcoholic as I mostly drink at home. I was able to hold a full-time job, and I was also a workaholic. When I wasn't drinking, when I wasn't working, I was drinking. And when I wasn't drinking, I was working. I was also to maintain this destructive lifestyle while keeping my drinking secret until my health rapidly deteriorated. I took early retirement in April of 2023, and I was hospitalized in June of 2023, and again in September of 2023. Prior attempts to quit drinking on my own had failed. I decided I had had enough when doctors told me my liver would fail if I didn't stop drinking. I enrolled in an outpatient rehab and started attending AA meetings in Springfield. I guess you enroll. Sounds like a school thing, but I guess it's like education. Anyway, enrolling is good. I also think of it as checking in or whatever the case may be. But anyway, she says, I have been listening to various podcasts, and I really like yours. There's usually something in each speaker's stories that resonates with me. I am fairly new to the recovery podcast, and I find these episodes informative and helpful. Thank you for making these available to us. I have told other AA members here in Pennsylvania about your podcast. Thank you, and have a good weekend. Will you have a great weekend as well, Betsy? I appreciate you writing in. Have a safe and sober rest of your day for all the rest of you listening in. And I think that will do it. Anything else come to my mind? No, nothing else right now, which is probably very fortunate for those of you out there listening. All right. I take this 1 week at a time. I hope to be back next week. And may God bless you and keep you until then. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye-bye.